Welcome to Pastor's Chat today. Well, we're looking at Psalm 102. Psalm 102 is a psalm I called the Me, My, I psalm. A man in tremendous despair, going through some suffering in his life, and he is crying out to God with a prayer, asking God for mercy and help. This is a psalm that you and I can use as we deal with the changes in life. You know, life is full of changes. We have to understand that. Matter of fact, if we are going to be victorious in our Christian lives, if we're going to grow in the grace and knowledge of the Lord Jesus Christ, we cannot help what happens to us in life that comes our way most of the time. But we can determine how we are going to respond to it. This man was dealing with major changes going on around him. If indeed he wrote this psalm at the end of the captivity, he has watched the destruction of Jerusalem, and now the people maybe are going to be released from captivity, and everything is changing. And he gives us some vivid pictures of what he feels like as he deals with these changes. You know, there's some normal changes in life that take place simply because of life itself. We are young, we have energy, we start getting older, we lose our strength. We go to school, we graduate from high school, graduate from college, we get married, and things change. We have children, and things change. We move from one city to another city for our job or whatever, and things change. Change is a constant thing. There's one thing someone said about change: it's never going to change. It's always going to be changing, and that's for sure. And so we need to learn to deal with it. The people of Israel were having to deal with change. This man was dealing with change. They thought things would never change, that God would never send punishment upon them, but they were wrong. And God did send them into captivity. They did see Jerusalem destroyed, the temple destroyed. It all happened. They never thought it would happen, but it happened. Even today in our world, with what's taking place in Israel right now, in Ukraine, and even in America, all these things that are happening, it's change. It's tough to deal with. I don't like it, and I'm sure you don't either, but it's there. And we must learn by God's grace to deal with it. This man is given a vivid picture of what it was like. That's why he says, "Hear my prayer, O Lord. Let my cry come to you. Don't hide your face from me in the day of my trouble. Incline your ear to me in the day that I call. Answer me speedily." Sounds like many of the other Psalms he's quoting from when he starts this chapter. And then he says, he feels like my days are consumed like smoke. My bones are burned like a hearth. He feels like he's in a furnace of fire. What a tough thing to feel like. And then he says, my heart is stricken and withered like grass, so that I forget to eat my bread. And he's dealing with such difficulties that he's withering away like the grass in the sun, a hot sun during the day. And he is so overwhelmed, he doesn't even eat. And when he eats, he says in verse 9, for I have eaten ashes like bread. I mingled my drink with weeping. Can you imagine that? He feels like when he does eat, it's a bunch of ashes. Then he says, my heart, he says in verse 5, because of the sound of my groaning, my bones cling to my skin. In other words, because I can't eat, I've lost all this weight, and I can't even, I feel like the sound of my groaning, he says, it's causing him, his pain, his hurt, keeps him from eating. And then he says in verse 9, I'm like an unclean bird. I'm like a pelican of the wilderness, a Nile of the desert. So he's like unclean animals, birds that are feasting on the death around them. And then he says, I lie awake. I'm like a sparrow alone on the housetop. In other words, I can't sleep at nights. My enemies reproach me all the day. Those who deride me swear an oath against me. He says in verse 10, because of your indignation and wrath, for you've lifted me up and cast me away. He feels like he's been thrown in the trash. That's how he feels. My days are like a shadow that lengthens, and I wither away like grass. So what does he do? Well, verse 12, but you, O Lord, shall endure forever. We'll talk about that tomorrow. What does he do? He turns to the Lord. And my friend, that's what you and I should do as we deal with the changes that take place in our life. God bless you, and you have a wonderful, wonderful day.